A wonderful day to everyone and welcome to this channel. Hello graded learners, this is your teacher on screen, Teacher Mel Colongan from the Eastern Samar National Comprehensive High School, and I'm inviting you all to another exciting learning experience right at the comfort of your home. Come with me as we take the journey of discovering the wonderful world of English 8. I'm sure you are now excited to learn the lessons in English 8. So come on, get your module, your pen, activity notebook, and paper, and let's start to learn English. This module is developed based on the most essential learning competency or MELC presented in the English 8 curriculum guide. The lesson found in this module is divided into independent units with their own activities and notes for further reading. This lesson helps you on how to analyze literature as a mirror to a shared heritage of people with diverse backgrounds. The module is thus structured in terms of certain kinds of progression. The reading texts and activities focus on Afro-Asian literature, which brings the students to the wonderful continents of Africa and Asia as a mirror to a shared heritage. With these, you will be able to inculcate a deeper appreciation of Philippine culture and those of the other countries. The most essential learning competency in this module is to analyze literature as a mirror to a shared heritage of people with diverse backgrounds. Our objectives: as a learner of this module, you are expected to, first, define literature and its elements. Second, identify the elements of a given literary piece. Third, analyze the culture reflected in the text with other cultures. And fourth, write a composition appreciating the literature as a reflection to a shared heritage of people. This time, recall what you have learned in the previous module on determining various social, moral, and economic issues. Directions: the following items are lifted from the different articles concerning problems in our society. Choose the letter of the best answer and write it on a separate sheet of paper. Number 1. Which of the following constitutes social issue? A. It is only important to politicians. B. It is a problem that is only seen overseas. C. It has been around for thousands of years. D. It prevents society from functioning normally. Number 2. Which of the following can be categorized as a moral issue? A. A teenage girl gets pregnant. B. A boy throws garbage into a pond. C. A mom takes away her son's phone for not listening to her. D. A group of teens spends much time on playing online games. Number 3. Transmission of COVID-19 continues to affect the work of people across the world. What issue is evident in this situation? A. Moral. B. Social. C. Economical. Or D. Psychological. Number 4. In some of the poorest villages across the globe, children are dying from diseases that are preventable and curable. What issue is evident in this situation? A. Moral. B. Social. C. Economical. Or D. Psychological. Number 5. High fuel costs, soaring commodity prices, and fears of global recession affect the developing countries. What issue is evident in this situation? A. Moral. B. Social. C. Economical. D. Psychological. Let's find out if you got the correct answers. Number 1. Which of the following constitutes a social issue? The correct answer is letter D. It prevents society from functioning normally. Number 2. Which of the following can be categorized as a moral issue? The correct answer is letter A. A teenage girl gets pregnant. Number 3. Transmission of COVID-19 continues to affect the work of people across the world. What issue is evident in this situation? correct answer is letter C, economical. Number 4. In some of the poorest villages across the globe, children are dying from diseases that are preventable and curable. What issue is evident in this situation? Answer is letter B, social. And for number 5, high fuel costs, soaring commodity prices, and fears of global recession affect the developing countries. What issue is evident in this situation? The correct answer is letter C, economical.
Did you get all the correct answers? Very good.
These issues speak about universal themes of human life. Do you think these issues are also reflected in literature? You will find out as you explore some literary pieces of Afro-Asian literature. As you go along with this module, you will be reading the story of Ramayana, an epic from India. The story was written by Maharshi Valmiki, a Hindu sage who lived around the beginning of the first millennium BC. He is referred to as the Adikavi, the original creator of the Hindu sloka, a verse form in which most of the great epics such as Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas, and other works are composed. The Ramayana is an ancient Sanskrit comprising of 24,000 verses in 7 cantos. The epic contains the teachings of the very ancient Hindu sages. It is one of the most important literary works of ancient India, which greatly influenced art and culture in the Indian subcontinent and Southeast Asia. After reading the summary of the Ramayana, do the activity that follows. Our activity is shaping interpretation. Fill in the graphic organizer by answering the question inside the balloon.
Who is the eldest son of King Dasharatha? Who is the lover of Rama? Who is the 10-headed enemy of Rama? Who is the general of the band of monkeys? What trait of Rama do you like the most? What is the name of the kingdom ruled by Rama's father? The Story of Ramayana by Maharshi Valmiki. Long ago, Dasharatha, the wise king of Ayodhya of Sarayu, India, had 3 wives. Though the king had 3 wives, he didn't have any children with them. The chief priest Vasishta advised the king to make fire sacrifice to obtain a blessing from the gods. After the gods were pleased, one of them appeared out of the flame and handed him a pot full of nectar. The god told the king to share the nectar with his 3 queens, namely Kausalya, Kaikeyi, and Sumitra. While the nectar had been shared, the 3 queens gave birth to sons. Kausalya had Rama, Kaikeyi had Bharata, and Sumitra had twins Lakshmana and Shatrughna. A sage took the boys out to train them in archery. In a neighboring city, the ruler's daughter was named Sita. When it was time for Sita to choose her bridegroom, at a ceremony called Swayamvara, the princes were asked to string a giant bow. No one else could even lift the bow, but as Rama bent it, he did not only string it but also broke it into 2. Sita indicated that she chose Rama as her husband by putting a garland around his neck. The disappointed suitors were watching. King Dasharatha, Rama's father, decided it was time to give his throne to his eldest son Rama and retired to the forest to seek moksha. Everyone seems pleased. This plan fulfilled the rules of Dharma because an eldest son should rule, and if a son can take over one's responsibilities, one's last years may be spent in search for moksha. In addition, everyone loved Rama. However, Rama's stepmother, the king's second wife, was not pleased. She wanted her son Bharata to rule. Because of an oath Dasharatha had made to her years before, she got the king to agree to banish Rama for 14 years and to crown Bharata, even though the king, on bended knee, begged her not to demand such things. Broken-hearted, the devastated king could not face Rama with the news that Kaikeyi must tell him. Rama, always obedient, was as content to go into banishment in the forest as to be crowned king. Sita convinced Rama that she would always be at his side, and his brother Lakshmana also begged to accompany them. Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana set out to the forest. Bharata, whose mother's evil plot had won him the throne, was very upset when he found out what had happened. Not for a moment he did consider breaking the rules of Dharma and becoming king in Rama's place. He went to Rama's forest retreat and begged Rama to return and rule, but Rama refused. "We must obey father," Rama says. Bharata then took Rama's sandals, saying, "I will put this on the throne, and every day I shall place the fruits of my work at the feet of my Lord." Embracing Rama, he took the sandals and returned to Ayodhya. Years passed, and Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana were very happy in the forest. Rama and Lakshmana destroyed Rakshasas, or evil creatures who disturbed the sages in their meditations. One day, a Rakshasa princess named Shurpanakha tried to seduce Rama, and Lakshmana wanted her and drove her away. She returned to her brother Ravana, the 10-headed ruler of Lanka, and told her brother, who is always attracted to beautiful women, about lovely Sita. Ravana devised a plan to abduct Sita. He sent a magical golden deer which Sita desired Rama to hunt. A long time had passed, but Rama didn't return. Thus, Lakshmana went off to find his brother. Before leaving Sita, Lakshmana drew a protective circle around Sita and warned her that she would be safe if she would stay within the circle. As they went off, Ravana, who could change his shape, appeared as a holy man begging alms. The moment Sita stepped outside the circle to give him food, Ravana grabbed her and carried her off to his kingdom in Lanka. Rama was broken-hearted when he returned to the empty hut and could not find Sita. A band of monkeys led by Hanuman offered to help him find Sita. Ravana carried Sita to his palace in Lanka, but he could not force her to be his wife. So he put her in a grove and alternately sweet-talked her and threatened her in an attempt to get her to agree to marry him. Sita would not even look at him, but thought only of her beloved Rama. Hanuman, the general of the monkey band, could fly since his father was the wind, and he flew to Lanka and found Sita in the grove, comforted her, and told her Rama would come soon and save her. Ravana's men captured Hanuman, and Ravana ordered them to wrap Hanuman's tail in cloth and set it on fire. With his tail burning, Hanuman hopped from housetop to housetop, setting Lanka afire. He then flew back to Rama to tell him where Sita was. Rama, Lakshmana, and the monkey army built a causeway from the tip of India, crossing over to Lanka. A mighty battle took place. Rama killed several of Ravana's brothers, and then Rama confronted 10-headed Ravana. Rama finally killed Ravana and freed Sita. After Sita gained her freedom from Ravana, she proved her purity through the trial by fire. Then they returned to Ayodhya and Rama became the king. As Rama became the king, he ruled Ayodhya with Ramrajya, an ideal time when everyone does his or her duties and responsibilities.
What do you call the place where the story happened? What refers to the people present in the story? The answers to these questions are some of the elements of the story. You will find out more of these as you explore this module. What is literature? Literature, it refers to a body of written works such as poetry, novels, history, biography, and essays that reflects the backgrounds of a certain culture. It is derived from the Latin word literatura, which means writing formed with letters. There are a number of ways that literature is classified. The most basic types of literature are fiction and non-fiction. Fiction. It is a type of literature that is a product of a writer's imagination. It can be inspired by actual or completely made-up events.
Examples. The story The Soul of the Great Bell is a Chinese fiction retold in English by Lacfadio Hearn. The story is all about a girl named Kongai, a virgin maiden who sacrificed her life to save her father Kuan Yu from the anger of the Son of Heaven and Yung Lu. Her blood was the main ingredient to successfully make the Great Bell. Another example of fiction is the story of the Aged Mother, a Japanese folktale by Matsuo Basho. It is about a son and his mother going through struggles because of the unkind ruler who issued cruel orders which included, among others, sending the elderly to the mountain to be abandoned and left to die. However, the son took good care of his mother. Meanwhile, the governor ordered that whoever could bring him a rope made of ashes would be honored. It was the mother's wisdom that saved the entire town when the son revealed that it was his aged mother's brilliant idea to make the order possible. The governor, in the end, denounced his previous order of killing all aged people.
Another type of literature is the non-fiction. It is a type of literature that is based on facts. It is a writing about real people, places, and events, which include biographies, autobiographies, and interviews.
Example of non-fiction. Long Walk to Freedom, an autobiography, a self-written story of Nelson Mandela, who was a South African activist and former president.
Let us now discuss the different elements of a story. Number 1. Setting. It refers to the time and place in which the action of the story happens. Example. In Ramayana, there is more than one setting such as Ayodhya, Lanka, and the forest. This refers to the place. The story happened a long time ago, and this is the time. Number 2. Plot. It is defined as an interrelated sequence of events in a story where each event affects the other, thus showing the cause and effect relationships. A plot has different elements. We have what we call exposition, or the initial action. This is the very beginning of a story. In this part, authors usually introduce the major characters and setting to the reader. In the illustration above, the author introduces the place Ayodhya as the setting and presents the character King Dasharatha, Rama, and Sita. Element of a plot is the rising action. This is the part where tension starts to build. It usually involves facing and conquering minor conflicts, which is what keeps the plot moving forward. In the illustration above, the tension started when Ravana devised a plan to abduct Sita. The next element of a plot is the climax. This is the part of the story where the characters finally have to face and solve the major conflict. This is the peak of the plot, or the highest point of interest, where all the tensions of the rising action lead to the success or failure of the hero. In the illustration above, Rama solved the major conflict when he fought and killed Ravana to save Sita. The next element of a plot is the falling action. This is everything that happens after the climax, but before the resolution. This is when the tension lessens and starts bringing the action to a close. And the last element of a plot is the resolution, or denouement. This is the conclusion or ending of a story. In the illustration above, The story ended when Rama ruled Ayodhya in peace and harmony with his people. The third element of a short story is the character. It refers to a person, an object, an animal, or imaginary creature personified in the story. There are two types of characters, the protagonist and the antagonist. Protagonist, it is the main character who does heroic acts in the story. In the story Ramayana, Rama is the protagonist since he does the heroic acts of saving Sita and winning the battle against Ravana. The antagonist, it is also a main character who opposes the protagonist in some way. Ravana is considered as the main antagonist of the story Ramayana. The fourth element of a short story is the conflict. It refers to the problem that the main characters have to face. The conflict of the story has four major types: man versus man, man versus self, man versus society, and man versus supernatural. Man versus man. It is the conflict of the story in which the struggle is between the protagonist and the antagonist. In this conflict, the protagonist wants something, and the antagonist obstructs the protagonist from getting what he wants. Example: in Ramayana, the author illustrates man versus man conflict when Rama fought against Ravana who abducted Sita. Man versus self. It is a conflict that takes place within the character himself. It often involves the character in making a decision between right or wrong. Example: Dasharatha had a conflict within himself in his decision to set Rama into banishment even against his own will. Man versus society. It is a conflict that occurs when the character has a conflict with the government, cultural, or societal tradition. Example: in Ramayana, the author shows man versus society when everyone, including the band of monkeys, fought against Ravana to save Sita. Man versus supernatural. It is a conflict that happens when the protagonist faces a struggle against a god, gods, and supernatural forces. Example: in Ramayana, the author depicts man versus supernatural type of conflict when Rama and Lakshmana fought against Rakshasas, or the evil creature. Another element of a short story is the point of view. This is the angle of narration or the perspective from which the story is told. It can be classified as first person and third person. First person, the narrator is a character in the story who can reveal only personal thoughts and feelings. It uses the personal pronoun I. Example: I was standing in the dark. I was scared and cold. Then, I felt something on my shoulder, and it was a hand. I was trying to get away, but it wouldn't let me go. I screamed as loud as I could, but no one heard me. In the dark. Third person point of view. This is when the narrator is removed from the story and tells it from an outside perspective. To do this, the narrator uses personal pronouns like he, she, and they to refer to the characters in the story. Example: Ravana devised a plan to abduct Sita. He sent a magical golden deer which Sita desired Rama to hunt. A long time had passed, but Rama didn't return. Thus, Lakshmana went off to find his brother. Another element of a short story is the theme. It refers to the central idea or message of a story. In Ramayana, the theme is about showing love and doing one's duties and responsibilities, or known as dharma. Rama showed his love to Sita by saving her from the enemy. He also performed his duties and responsibilities as a king. husband, son, and brother respectively. This time, you will be shaping your interpretation in analyzing literature using different activities. Activity 1. This is the 2-3-1 challenge. Directions. Read the story and do the following activity. Write your answers in your activity notebook.
In the dark. There I was, standing in the dark. No one was there but me and the night. All I could do was stand there and not move. If I moved, I would fall into the black pit. I was scared and cold. I tried to scream, but all you could hear was my echo. I was trying to feel my way without moving, but I couldn't feel anything. I felt something on my shoulder, and it was a hand. I was trying to get away, but it wouldn't let me go. Then the hands pushed me into the black pit. I screamed as loud as I could, but no one heard me. I tried to stop myself from falling, but I kept on falling. Then a hand from under me stopped me from falling. The hand that stopped me was my mother's. Directions. Based on the story In the Dark, answer the following questions below. Cite the sentences from the text to prove your answer. What point of view is used by the author? What is the theme of the story? What societal issue is mirrored in the story? Continue working on the other activities in your module.
Congratulations for having reached this far. This time, check what you have learned in this module by answering the test that follows. Directions. Read and analyze the following questions carefully. Write the letter of your answer on a separate sheet of paper. Number 1. What is a body of written works such as poetry, novels, history, biography, and essays that reflects the background of a certain culture? A. Epic. B. Literature. C. Poetry. Or D. Prose. Number 2. Which type of literature is a product of a writer's imagination? A. Feature. B. Fiction. C. Literature. D. Non-fiction. Number 3. What is defined as the sequence of events that occurs from the first to the last line of the story? A. Character. B. Plot. C. Point of view. D. Setting. Number 4. Which type of literature is based on facts and talks about real people, places, and events? A. Features. B. Fiction. C. Non-fiction. D. Sci-fi. Number 5. What part of a plot refers to the conclusion or ending of a story? A. Climax. B. Falling action. C. Rising action. D. Resolution. Number 6. Ravana abducted Sita and forced her to be his wife. Rama came to rescue Sita. He fought and confronted Ravana and his evil brothers. Finally, Rama killed Ravana and freed Sita. In this situation, the struggle is directly set between the protagonist and the antagonist. What type of conflict is used by the author? A. Man versus man. B. Man versus self. C. Man versus society. Or D. Man versus supernatural. Number 7. Long ago, the kingdom of Ayodhya was ruled by a wise king. Ayodhya is a part of the ancient Sarayu in India. What literary element is emphasized from this statement? A. Character. B. Plot, C. Setting, D. Theme. Number 8. While it is true that Rama's stepmother, the second wife, is against Rama to be crowned as the next king, Ravana is considered as the main antagonist of the story Ramayana. What literary element is emphasized in the text? A. Character, B. Plot, C. Setting, D. Theme. For items 9 and 10, choose your answers from the following sequence of events of the story Ramayana. Number 9. The rising action of the story consists of the conflicts and complications that the main character faces. Which of the above events shows the rising action of the story Ramayana? Number 10. The climax is the greatest point of interest or turning point of a story. Which of the above events shows the climax of the story Ramayana? Number 11. The theme is the central meaning or idea that the writer conveys to the reader. What do you think is the theme of the story Ramayana?
A. Seeking happiness. B. Doing one's duties. C. Forgiving and forgetting. D. Giving importance to wedding.
Number 12. Ravana devised a plan to abduct Sita. He sent a magical golden deer which Sita desired Rama to hunt. A long time had passed, but Rama didn't return. Thus, Lakshmana went off to find his brother. What point of view is used by the author? A. First person, B. Omniscient, C. Third person, or D. All of these. Number 13. I was standing in the dark. I was scared and cold. Then I felt something on my shoulder, and it was a hand. I was trying to get away, but it wouldn't let me go. I screamed as loud as I could, but no one heard me. From In the Dark. What point of view is used by the author? A. First person, B. Omniscient, C. Third person, D. All of these. Number 14. What values are evident in the story Ramayana? A. Trust and hatred, B. Pride and prejudice, C. Loyalty and responsibility or dharma, D. Humility and thriftiness. Number 15. Literature reflects the culture of a certain place. In the story Ramayana of India, Rama shows his undying love to Sita by risking his life just to protect her. Which of the following Filipino culture mirrors this value?
A. A husband remains loyal to his wife despite the trials that they met. B. A husband works hard in order to provide the needs of his family. C. A husband remembers the wedding anniversary with his wife. D. A Filipino family loves gathering, especially during special occasions. Let's check your answers. Number 1 is B. Literature. Number 2 is B. Fiction. Number 3, B. Plot. Number 4 is C. Non-fiction. Number 5, D. Resolution. Number 6, A. Man versus man. 7, C. Setting. 8, A. Character. 9, B. 10, C. 11, B. doing one's duties. 12. Be omniscient. 13a. First person. 14c. Loyalty and responsibility. 15a. A husband remains loyal to his wife despite the trials that they met. This part of the module will help you sharpen your knowledge in analyzing literature as a reflection to a shared heritage of people with different backgrounds. Activity 1. Let's draw. Directions. Dig up some local legends from your place by asking your parents, guardians, or even the elders. You may also research local stories from books or any online sources. Then, draw one scene that reflects the cultural heritage of your locality. Provide a brief description of your drawing. Do this on a separate sheet of paper. Be guided by the rubric for scoring.
There you have it, graded learners. Congratulations everyone for a fun-filled learning experience. Join me again next time as we take the journey of discovering the wonderful world of English 8. This has been Teacher Mel saying, education is your weapon in helping build the nation. Stay safe, God bless, and goodbye everyone.